Greetings. Today's talk focuses on three areas. First, we're focused on the fact that the 35K Model 3 is here. The second issue is kind of a little bit more about the SEC updates on where we are with Elon Musk. And finally, we're going to be doing sort of a two-parter here on the factory. So before we start today, I wanted to give you guys a quick peek on where we're at. We're at the Tesla factory in Fremont, California. And if you look behind me, you can see so the way things are set up here is, I think it's called Warren Street. There's a main road that runs up here. And as you come up the street heading into the factory, you end up looking to your right and you'll see what's right behind me, which is kind of a large area where trucks are loading up all the cars that will then go to either a port or a train or directly to be sold to customers. So, you know, because of how the sun is set up here, it's better for me to sit up on the other side so you don't get as much of a view as we talk. But I wanted to note kind of where we were, and you'll see a lot of truck traffic and Teslas going by us on the hill to the rear. So I wanted to note that I have a dead cat in my hand because I get too much wind noise, and a lot of our viewers don't like the wind noise, but we do have trucking noise, as you can hear, heading in and out of the factory. So we'll just work with that part of it. At least it's not planes or trains. Look at the bright side. As I drove up, there were several things that I noticed that were kind of interesting. The first one is, as you're coming up 880, there are a large number of trucks that are empty, waiting for cars to be put on them on the roadway. So this is part of the Tesla strategy of how to deal with the cost of real estate in places like Silicon Valley, which is just put the inventory on trucks and have it sitting on the side of the road. And now you don't have to pay for that real estate that you're storing cars on. And so there's a huge number of trucks to carry that freight that are sitting here. The other thing that I noticed was that, and we'll be showing more of this in our next show, is that if we go beyond the lot you saw behind me, you actually see a number of employees sitting in the parking lot trying to wait for other people to leave so they can get their parking spaces. So parking is extremely tight here, so we're just off the facility. Another thing to notice is if you look over my head, you notice those trailers out there? So rent is so expensive here that people have basically started getting campers and camping out and then maybe go home on the weekend or something. That way they can cut down the cost of housing and afford to be able to work for Tesla, you know, at the $15 or $20 range. So that's kind of the backdrop that we have here. I'm gonna pitch a little bit here so that you guys can see some of the truck traffic and Tesla traffic coming off of the main road that comes into the plant behind me as we're having a conversation. So the big news of the day, and I was kind of shocked by process on this, is that the Model 3 at the $35,000 level is now being offered by Tesla. This is great news for folks like me that are looking to purchase. And the other thing about it that was very strange is the fact that Elon started doing process that's consistent with what good companies do. So what I mean by that is that if you're a large company and you have news that might affect everything, you're required to do things to protect the general public. So in this case, Tesla elected to do a freeze on the stock price and sales so that the news could hit. I am waiting for the 35K vehicle myself. The challenge I'm having is that I live in a condo and we don't have parking in the condo, we have street parking. So what's been happening in Washington, D.C. area where I live, thank you, we're gonna get some quiet here because the giant construction trucks sort of pulled away. the area that I live in Washington, D.C. is located where we don't have underground parking. And so I now have to try to figure out how to charge the vehicle. The other issue is if you're at 220 miles, the nearest charging facility is 10 or 12 miles away. So you've got to go charge up, bring your vehicle back. And I actually noticed that the stock fell because I think there are a lot of people that were expecting possibly the semi, possibly the Roadster to show up, and that did not happen. So obviously folks weren't real happy with that. And in terms of its potential impact on Tesla. I kind of feel somewhat good about the new Model 3 1 because it now puts in my affordability range. But two, another issue that comes up is that because it's only a 220 mile range vehicle, I believe that the smaller battery pack allows them to be able to go beyond break even on these vehicles. The issue though is when you're here at the factory, you can see how jammed everything is. And I really feel like Tesla needs to focus on cars that are more profitable. But I don't know if it's a great move to try to push more volume through a space where you already are tight on space in terms of production facilities. So, so I think it's good that the car is available. It'll increase the sales for Tesla around the world, but I think it's bad because I like the idea of them selling the more expensive vehicles and making more money that they can sock away for the future so that the company is in better shape. So I think it's a good and bad news. The second thing that we covered today is what's going on with the SEC, Tesla / Elon Musk. Now, as we've covered for the last couple of shows, the fact is that a situation occurred where Elon did a tweet and then he did a correction of that tweet. So if you recall, many of you have sent me notes about the fact that the SEC shouldn't be giving Elon a hard time. It's ridiculous. The reality is Elon signed a piece of paper saying that he would have all of his tweets vetted before presenting them to the public and his 24 million followers. And he elected to violate that agreement not once, but basically twice. And so I think that Elon gets the message now because the process in which this new announcement was done could have been just a straight tweet, which he did not do. But he went ahead and did correct process in terms of freezing the stock and sales and everything, then making the announcement after market and then coming back. So I think this is all, I want to say, good news because I think it means that Elon is now getting serious about running the company more like a CEO should, rather than sort of firing from the hip a lot. And hopefully it gets his relationship with the SEC onto better footing. The other thing about this is that one of the issues that runs for attorneys or accountants or other people that are licensed is if you're with a company that violates the rules of the organizations that license you, you potentially lose your license and the ability to practice law or accounting, et cetera, et cetera. Great news. By the way, I wanted to note with you guys that I typically don't say hello to everyone until the end of the show, not because I can't see you, but because viewers that weren't here with us when we were live won't be able to keep track of developments of the show as I say hello to everyone. So thank you for viewing, and we will say hello at the end of the show. The next thing that I wanted to cover on this whole thing is that there's a number of quotes from different people that are experts on dealing with the SEC that indicated that Elon is really in a two strikes mode. He got the first strike and now they're seeking the contempt charge. But it's likely that because it was an egregious mistake or misstep, they'll likely use the contempt decree to warn him that for the next round, it's the death sentence for him in a number of ways. So I think this is kind of good news for Tesla / Elon Musk, that he's not being booted out of the company or other things of that nature as of the March 11th hearing. that's coming up. One of the things you can hear next to me right now is there's a lot of vehicles coming back and forth from the train station to bring employees in because the parking is so tight here. I really want you guys to see the trucks that are moving cars in and out, but as soon as I do that towards the end of the show, you'll notice that the way the light is positioned, it ends up being harder to see me as I'm speaking. So you see the truck right behind me right now. So that's what's happening. Those trucks are leaving the yard after being loaded up and then pulling out to head out for their deliveries is kind of what's going on right now. So the next thing that we wanted to dive into, the next thing that we wanted to dive into is sort of the factory and kind of what we're seeing, what's going on. Looks busy to me. A lot of Model S's sitting out, or I'm seeing X's and S's out waiting to be delivered, which is good. I'm also seeing, trucks loading up. It's buzzing in every way here. Weather is nice. This weekend we're actually going to be doing a test drive of the performance version of the Model 3 with the factory. So I'm going to bring you guys along with me as we do that show. Hopefully you enjoy. The next thing that I wanted to sort of dive into is just the fact that we're keeping an eye on what's going on both in China and Europe, so we can anticipate what numbers are looking like for Tesla. At this point, it looks like the China numbers should be better than expected, because without new tariffs, it means that more people can afford to buy the car. So I think that both the number of cars sold, etc., is going to be great coming out of China without the tariff. In Europe, as usual, Norway is leading the pack because of all the inducements that they have. So that's good to know. The next thing is that we're tracking all this so we can present. I have to admit that we just landed in the Fremont area, and charging has been an issue for me thus far. I'm going to truncate the show early today because we're low on battery life, but we'll be back in action on Saturday with our drive. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Please like, subscribe. Could use your help on Patreon. Tschüss, macht's gut, au revoir. Sorry about the abrupt ending there. Unfortunately, just flew in, battery life sort of dove on us, and kind of that's what happened in that situation. We're going to get fully charged again and really come at this again on Saturday, hardcore, once we're back at the factory for our test drive. I'm actually looking forward to any and all questions you guys might have, because it'll facilitate us maybe asking the kind of questions that you'd like to hear us talk with the factory rep about. So that's another item that kind of pops up. Other than that, I would say remember your 20 leg lifts. Don't go to bed within 2 hours of eating, preferably 4 hours, and ease up on the fried foods. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Tschüss, macht's gut, au revoir, lehitraot, choda hafez.